77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
President Trump, well, he has a lot on his plate. He's talking a lot about Iran, guys. There is no doubt about it. Calling the offer that Iran came back garbage. Also saying that the ceasefire is on massive life support. He said there's about a 1% chance that this ceasefire is going to stay, which means pretty much 99.99999. There will be strikes coming. Now, the big question is he's going to be leaving tomorrow to go to Beijing. He is meeting with Xi Jinping, the president of China. And there's a lot of factors there because, of course, China gets a huge portion of its oil from Iran. And then there's a lot of issues, of course, with China's relationship with Iran, also with Russia's relationship with Iran, Russia and North Korea, China, all of these bad actors sort of all together in different, realms, if you will. And then you also have all this stuff about artificial intelligence, about trademarks. There's a lot of big issues on the plate with business. And President Trump is bringing a whole bunch of business leaders going over to China. He's got Elon Musk and he's got Tim Cook of Apple, and he's got a whole bunch of others going over there to talk. So there will be a lot of business. But you can bet that Xi Jinping's probably going to bring up Taiwan. He's definitely going to bring up Iran, because this is hurting them big time because they can't get the oil from Iran that they need. So what kind of deal can be done that's good, most importantly, first for the U.S., and maybe that also is good for China and helps them to put pressure on Iran at this pivotal time. And I say all of this because my gut tells me clearly he will probably do something after he gets back from China, or maybe on the way back, knowing President Trump. I don't think he would want to do something while he's over there. He famously, remember, he was in Mar-a-Lago, and he was actually having a dinner, I think, or a lunch with Xi Jinping. And that's when he leaned over and said, oh, by the way, I just bombed so-and-so. So maybe he wants to have another moment like that with him, although I don't think he wants to be doing high activity against Iran when he's over in China. That could get a little bit messy. Maybe right after they take off and they get out of Chinese airspace, then maybe who knows what happens. But I think the timing is that it will at least be until after all the meetings and everything else is over in China. And those are expected. He leaves tomorrow. Of course, it takes a long time to get there. He's doing meetings on Wednesday and Thursday. So maybe Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. Who knows? But it seems like President Trump is fed up unless China can put some big pressure on Iran to come to the table. But President Trump today said that Iran is a mess. It's an absolute mess. He said what they came back to them was essentially garbage. And they know that they are jerking Trump around, because he comes back and he said, here's the deal. We want you to have no nukes. We want you to do X. We want you to do this. And they come back and they essentially barely give him anything. So they know it's a joke, what they're giving back to him. They're just buying time, straggling, and trying to also hope that maybe China can help them as well. So that's the game. It's the waiting game, and it's sort of who's going to blink first. But President Trump today said that the leadership of Iran is a disaster, and he knows darn well that you just can't trust them.
Look, I've had to deal with them 4 or 5 times. They change their mind. They're very dishonorable people, the leadership. Don't forget, it's the third level. The first level is God. They were unreasonable. The second level is more reasonable. The third level, nobody wants to be president, They say, who wants to be president? There's nobody raises their hand. But they change their mind. I've had that in business many times. The mind changes, you call them. These people that you make a deal, and then the next day they send you a document that takes 5 days to get there when it should have been there in 20 minutes. It's a pretty simple document. They will never have a nuclear weapon, yeah?
They will never have a nuke. And I'm telling you, for all these crazy critics of President Trump, he's the only guy who's had the guts and the courage to take on Iran. Everybody else was just kind of blowing smoke, saying, yeah, they can't have a nuclear weapon, but didn't do anything about it. President Trump is the only one who's actually taking action and making sure that they don't actually obtain the weapon. Because you know darn well they'd use it. You know it. And in fact, President Trump today said that Europe should be absolutely worried because clearly they're in the crosshairs of Iran. They could get all the way to Diego Garcia. That's the same amount essentially as to go to a French base or wherever else. So they better wake up. And in fact, this is interesting. In just the last few minutes, this news crossed that apparently France is sending one of its carrier groups into the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. It is the Charles de Gaulle carrier group has moved in there. That's new because you never saw France doing anything before. They were too busy having escargot and French onion soup, although I do like both of those, by the way, for the record. But also the UK has now Keir Starmer, Neville Chamberlain, Keir Starmer has also sent a warship into the area. It is apparently on its way as well, headed towards the Mideast. So that's interesting. It's called the HMS Dragon. It would be the HMS Rabbit if it was named after Keir Starmer, but it's called the HMS Dragon. Thank goodness. I'm sure another different prime minister called it that. But the good news is they're now trying to pretend like they're getting on board. Because I'm sure they're like, maybe we should kind of help now that it's sort of the final throw. So we look like we have some sort of a backbone. And Iran is already sending a warning sign just in the last few hours to France and the UK, saying that deployment of warships near the Strait of Hormuz will, quote, be met with a significant Iranian military response. Because the last thing they want is to see even a Neville Chamberlain type ship coming in. Not the sailors, because they're great on the ship. The military there is great. I've been with a lot of the British military guys. I was with them in Kosovo and many other places. They're great. But their leader is just a disaster. So now they finally get a backbone, and they're sending a carrier group in, at least one ship in, and they're already getting flack. And we'll see if they blink, because Iran is already saying that there will be some sort of action if they get too close. So we'll be monitoring that carefully. Also, there are reports tonight that UAE is secretly carrying out some strikes in Iran because they, of course, have been getting so much incoming. They've been like flooded with so many different attacks that have been coming in from the Iranians. Remember, hitting oil facilities and a whole bunch else. They've taken even more than Israel has. So a lot of activity, a lot of moving parts here, you guys. Meantime, here is President Trump because he said, listen, I know that gas prices are high. They've gone up a lot. He expected it, but he said they're going to drop like a rock as soon as this war is over, and he believes it's going to be over soon. And today he actually talked about an interesting idea about reducing the federal gas tax. Now, it's about 18 cents a gallon, which doesn't sound like that much, but it does all add up. And it certainly shows that he's trying to make an effort to try to bring down gas prices. That, and of course, the war wrapping up at some point soon, all of that, I do believe, will turn things around. But listen, it's an interesting idea, and clearly gas prices are on President Trump's radar. Take a listen.
Are you going to suspend the federal gas tax?
Yeah, I'm going to reduce until let me tell you, as soon as this is over with Iran, as soon as it's over, you're going to see gasoline and oil drop like a rock. Going to be dropping down like a rock. I mean, already, look, just on the basis of, things have happened. When it first came about, 20% of the oil came out of Hormuz. That's a lot. But, with time, it's like they go into Texas, they go into Louisiana, they go into Alaska, a lot of Alaska. Alaska's, sort of, it seems like very far away from Asia, but it's actually a relatively short trip by comparison to other locations they have to go to get oil. And they go into Alaska, fact, our big problem is we're building bigger docking, to fill up.
Roger Stone here. Your dollars are losing ground, but gold isn't. American Sovereign Bullion helps you protect your wealth through real, tangible assets. Through their nationwide wholesaler network, you get some of the best pricing on gold and silver delivered straight to your door. Since 1912, the U.S. dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to prove its strength. So call 844-272-2428. That's 844-272-2428. Or visit dyingdollar.com to request your free gold and silver guide. That's dyingdollar.com.